Hey, true crime fanatics, this is Claire.
And I'm Andy.
You're tuned in to the Homicide Hobbies podcast, which is a podcast for people who love to hear about the horrendous crimes that people commit. Enjoy. So what do you have for us today? Or rather, where and when?
Our when is March 2019. Our where is South Carolina. You got any stupid questions to start me?
There's no need for any of that, ma'am.
All right.
My questions are highly thought.
Are they? I don't feel like they are. Anyway, Samantha Lee Josephson was born in Princeton, New Jersey.
I thought we were in South Carolina.
We're starting where she was born. Our crime takes place in South Carolina. Clean out your ear holes, pop down, and do some listening, lady.
Is she our victim or our criminal?
You're just going to have to listen. We're going to jump forward to when she's 21 years old. She's a senior at the University of South Carolina.
So why were we in New Jersey?
I was just telling you where she was born.
So where was she raised?
She was raised in New Jersey.
What drew her to South Carolina?
College.
Oh. All right.
Any more questions, ma'am?
Not yet.
Told you had stupid questions. Anyway.
It's not. You said let's start when she was born in New Jersey, and then we're going to fast forward her when she's 21. That don't make any sense.
I just wanted you to know where she was from. Just like when we talk about the background of people, we talk about where they was born.
Yeah, but you made it sound like if we're starting in New Jersey that there's going to be something in New Jersey, not she's from New Jersey, moved to South Carolina. It's just confusing is all.
Are you done? So anyway, she's a senior at the University of South Carolina, where she majored in political science. Her plans after graduating, which was just a mere 2 months away, she wanted to attend Drexel University School of Law. She had earned a full scholarship to Drexel, where her sister Sydney was also a student. Or she also had a partial scholarship to Rutgers Law School, so she had options. She wanted to become a lawyer, obviously, and work for United Nations. Samantha was also in the Alpha Gamma Delta sorority. She studied abroad in Barcelona and vacationed in Madrid and Paris during her time at South Carolina University. So she's living it up. She's enjoying life. She's enjoying her 20s, and
she had a plan.
Yeah. On the evening of March 29th, 2019, Samantha was out on the town with her friends. At around 2 a.m., she decided to leave the Bird Dog Bar and ordered an Uber to take her back to her apartment. Side note, Uber first became a thing in 2009. However, I say kind of became a thing because, like any new business, it started small.
Yeah, it was limited.
They initially only offered 3 cars for hire, which I thought was crazy. In 2009, they only had 3 cars for hire. And as we all know, the company soon developed into a massive company, expanding to multiple overseas markets by 2012. In that 3 years, Uber began operating in 66 countries and more than 360 cities worldwide. And as of February 26th of 2024, Uber Technologies has a net worth of $162.38 billion.
Which is insane growth.
That is insane. Its net worth has increased by 124.73% in just 1 year. That's insane.
Mm.
But back to Samantha hitting home. She calls herself an Uber. And according to the surveillance footage, according to the surveillance footage outside of the Bird Dog Bar, Samantha's seen standing outside just waiting for her Uber. In the surveillance video, you can see that there's a group of people outside. Everybody's laughing, having a good time. They don't seem to be a part of her getting her Uber, but just the general situation is everybody's having fun. Everybody's laughing. There's nothing crazy going on. Now, a car pulls up to the curb and Samantha's seen approaching the vehicle, but apparently it's not her ride, so she backs up. And she continues to wait for about another 9 minutes, and at 2:09 a.m., a black Chevrolet Impala pulled up beside her. Samantha hopped in the back seat. Off they drove. This strange man starts driving away.
Was he not the Uber?
But not to Samantha's apartment. Samantha was in the back seat, and panic washed over her when she realized the driver activated the child locks so that the doors could only be opened from the outside, thereby trapping her in his vehicle.
How did she figure that out?
I'm guessing because he wasn't driving towards her house. One of the times that he stopped, she tried to get out and realized she couldn't open the doors. Which, how terrifying is that?
Yeah. I want to say when we took an Uber from your house back to the hotel when we were visiting, me and Dave fell asleep. And when we woke up, I guess he decided to take the back roads. And I was like, I don't even know where the hell we are. It's just very woody. And I'm like,
Because we reference movies and almost every episode, it makes me think of that Angelina Jolie movie, the Bone
yes!
Collector.
Where
They get in the
the,
taxi and the couple falls asleep, and when they wake
yes!
up, they realize they're not
Like,
where they're
where
supposed to.
are we?
Right.
Yeah. That's exactly what I was thinking when it's dark and there's just woods. And I was like, we're going to die.
That would have been an awful end to your visit up here. Instead, you just got COVID. Anyway, when she realizes she can't open the door, she also can't put down the windows. She slides off her platform sandals and begins to kick the back windows, trying to escape.
Yeah, that's not going to work.
It did not work.
You might as well trying to break a window with a sponge.
Pretty much. And for no apparent reason, this man gets out of the driver's seat, opens the passenger door, and begins stabbing Samantha with a two-bladed knife.
Oh, what the fuck? What? A two-bladed knife?
Right. I'm glad that was your reaction, because I felt stupid when I was like, what the heck's a two-bladed knife?
Or is it like a double-edged knife?
So I Googled it, and a two-bladed knife means the entire edge of the knife is sharpened.
Right, both sides.
But then I continued reading, and in the court document, I watched all the trial, which took a week of the trial, which I don't know if you've ever watched that. That takes even longer.
Very boring.
But as I was continuing to go through all this, I saw the photos and the YouTube videos, and it wasn't a knife with a double blade with the whole blade sharpened. It was actually one of those multi-use tools that opens into like pliers or scissors and has a couple blades. You know what I'm talking about?
A Gerber.
Huh?
A Gerber. It's a multi-tool.
Yeah, but it opens into pliers, so it's got like two handles. Do you know what I'm talking about?
A Gerber.
Okay, that's a brand.
Yeah, but if you tell somebody a Gerber, it's a Gerber multi-tool.
Whatever.
It's pliers. It's got all sorts of stuff.
Those of us that don't buy
Everybody
the fancy
calls
brand.
them a Gerber.
No.
You can pick one up for like $20.
Anyway, so this weapon in particular that this driver uses has two blades that are relatively parallel, but they're bent at the tip. And Samantha's attacker had both blades out.
Interesting.
During the unprovoked attack, Samantha tried to defend herself. She kicked at the man, and as he stabbed the knife into her feet, she pulled away from him, and he advanced further into the vehicle. Samantha's curled up in the back seat, and that's when he begins a frenzied, vicious attack of just stabbing Samantha. Samantha was still trying to defend herself. She put up her hands, trying to push him away. One of the knife strikes went straight through her right hand.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. He also stabbed her in the carotid artery with one of the stabs to her neck. The majority of Samantha's injuries on her neck were on the right side and on her right shoulder, so I figure it was because she was trying to get away, and the way she turned, he was just going for that side.
Right.
Samantha suffered a severed hyoid bone. Now, the hyoid bone...
Her throat?
Yep. It is in the anterior midline of the neck between the chin and the thyroid cartilage.
It usually gets crushed when somebody's being strangled.
Exactly. But the coroner would later, when he does her autopsy, says that it was severed most likely from one of the stab wounds. And just in general, aside from being stabbed in the carotid artery and all the other things, just that injury alone is a potential life-threatening injury. She also received stab wounds to her face, like I said, her neck, her shoulders, her torso, her back, into her lungs, her legs, and like I said earlier, her hands and feet. She was bleeding profusely, but it ultimately took 10 to 20 minutes before she passed away.
That's so awful.
Her attacker had also stabbed her in the head with enough force that the knife went through her skull and into her brain. Samantha's attacker proceeded to inflict roughly 120 stab wounds all over her body. The following day, Samantha's roommates became worried and reported their friend missing. Later that afternoon, roughly 14 hours after she'd been abducted, some turkey hunters stumbled upon the body of Samantha. She had been discarded in a field in Clarendon County, 65 miles from the bar where she was picked up. When they were doing Samantha's autopsy, they could not determine the number of stab wounds because there were so many. They pretty much lost count at 120. They also noted that Samantha had nearly no blood left in her body. And another side note, the female body has roughly 4.5 liters of blood, or 152 ounces of blood circulating. Samantha only had 0.67 ounces of blood left in her body. She was completely drained.
Did they find his car, or did he destroy it somewhere? Because there's no way you could clean all that up.
Well, on a separate note, men have 5 liters, if you were curious. Since Samantha was last seen alive getting into that Impala, police issue a bolo or a be on the lookout for that black Impala. So while they're out doing regular patrol, they're also keeping an eye out for any dark-colored Impalas and pulling drivers over, having a conversation, just seeing if they see anything, right? Police find a vehicle that matched the description. The officer immediately calls the vehicle in, with everyone hoping that they've finally found their man. Backup is en route because, like I said, everybody's on high alert. When officers stopped the vehicle, the driver stopped and cooperated. The officer and his partner smelled a strong odor of marijuana, to which, when they confronted the driver, he did admit to having smoked earlier. The officer then asked him for identification. The driver claimed to not have an ID. At this point, the officer asked the driver to step out of the vehicle. The officer begins explaining to the driver that his vehicle matched the description of one involved in an abduction the previous day. Unable to even finish that sentence, the driver took off on foot. A foot pursuit is now in full swing. The body cam footage shows as the original officer could not catch up with the man trying to evade officers. Another police vehicle that was already en route drives alongside the officer on foot and takes over the pursuit to capture the suspect. The original officer, with the smell of the marijuana present, that gave officers probable cause to search the vehicle for evidence of marijuana. Not for evidence of anything else, but just of the marijuana.
Mm-hmm.
So now that officer goes back to the vehicle and decided to take a peek at the now ditched Impala. He asked the female passenger to exit the vehicle, which I couldn't imagine being in the car with somebody, and they just take off running and just leave me sitting there like, I have no idea what's going on right this second.
Right.
But the officers ask her to step out, and unlike her companion, she cooperates with the officers. The police find some remnants of marijuana on the driver's side floorboards. They also found a rose gold colored cell phone that did not belong to the passenger. The owner of the car is a 24-year-old man named Nathanial Rowland. Nathaniel's father is Henry Rowland and his mother is Loretta Rowland. Nathaniel went to East Clarendon School, where he was fond of basketball, and he attended South Carolina State University in 2017, but he had dropped out. He was arrested at 3 a.m. on March 30th. Not only does he have a matching vehicle, which happened to have...
But his back seats are coated in blood.
Well, not only does he have a matching vehicle, but the phone was later identified to be Samantha's cell phone in his vehicle. He also lives in the area where Samantha's body was dumped. And in the car, the police also find bleach, disinfectant wipes, and Windex, all with blood smears on them. And aside from cleaning products, and they find Samantha's phone, they also find lots and lots of blood in the passenger seat as well as in the trunk. So apparently after he stabbed her, he stuffed her in the trunk, and the child locks were still activated on the back doors. Police also found Samantha's bare footprints on the rear windows from when she was trying to kick the windows out. Police get another search warrant to search the home of Maria Howard, who is Nathaniel's girlfriend. She tells investigators that Nathaniel told her to mind her own business when she asked why there was blood on her McDonald's visor that she had left in the back of his car. She later said he was using bleach to scrub the blood out of the back seat of the car, and she asked him, did you hit a deer or something? And he again told her, mind her own business. She also saw him cleaning a small knife.
What the hell?
Yeah. Right? They find the cleaning supplies with the smears of Samantha's blood on them, the 2-bladed knife, also with Samantha's blood still on it. They find Samantha's blood on clothes owned by Nathaniel, and when he was arrested for fleeing the cops, the bandana and do-rag that he's wearing both have her blood on them. And if that's not enough, they found Samantha's blood under his fingernails, which is super gross because that means he never washed his hands.
I was going to say, what day was this?
Yeah. She was killed at 2 o'clock in the morning on the 29th, and he is arrested at 3 a.m. on the 30th. So he did not do a very good job washing his hands.
And you know he peed at some point in the day.
Ugh, gross. So Nathaniel was charged with kidnapping, murder, possession of a weapon during a commission of a crime, and on July 20th, 2001, Nathaniel's trial began. The state called 31 witnesses. Which, by the way, if you ever take on the task of watching a case that takes a week and they call 31 witnesses,
That's a lot of people.
it's so many people.
Were those how did, the witnesses to what? Seeing her get in the car, seeing him drive off?
So among the witnesses, they had the original officer pulling him over, his partner, the officer that read him his rights, the officer that took over the foot pursuit. All the officers involved testify. They also have a cell phone store owner who testifies that Nathaniel tried to sell him Samantha's phone the day after she went missing.
He's so stupid.
They also track Nathaniel's phone to the bar when Samantha had gotten picked up, and they track him all the way to the field, 65 miles away, where she was dumped, along with all the other evidence that I mentioned thus far, like Samantha's blood on him and in his vehicle. Now, all his defense said was Samantha appeared to have fought her attacker. And thanks to your Sherwood Brown case that you did, the case titled No Justice, it was just a couple weeks ago. This case gave me pause on this one because his defense did point out that even though she defended herself, he had no signs of injury on him, which seems weird.
It also seems weird that her blood is under his fingernails.
So we'll get back to this conversation in a second, but that's all they point out. They call no witnesses for Nathaniel. And
so are they trying to say that somebody else killed her and he just cleaned up the crime?
So all his defense really said was, you can't say that he was the one driving the car.
I'd hate to agree with the defense, but he could be covering for someone. Because that is weird that you'd think it's weird. It was a weird murder weapon anyway, because you'd think he'd injure himself even on his hands because...
Yeah, right. But he has no signs of injuries, no bruising, no cuts, no nothing. But the defense calls no witnesses. Nathaniel decides not to testify. And there's some heartbreaking videos online of Nathaniel's parents speaking to the news. His dad is full-blown sobbing and crying, pleading that his son is innocent. Howard, Nathaniel's dad, he says, now this is a whole he said, she said, but Howard says that their other son said that Nathaniel was at a party that night and Nathaniel passed out. The weeping father goes on to say that the next day, Nathaniel woke up and his keys were not in his pocket, but they were in his ignition in his car and there was blood everywhere. So if that's true, if somebody used his car, committed whatever, I could see him full-blown panic and try cleaning the car because he's not being very intelligent about it. And that would explain how he got blood under his nails.
Yeah.
And I really feel bad for his dad. And he says to the cameras through the tears that he just wants to know the daggone truth. But I find it interesting if you go back and watch it, and I do have the link for his interview in particular in our sources, because he told the cameras if Nathaniel told his mother he didn't do it, then he's going to believe his wife because she wouldn't lie. He trusts his wife, not his son. If the son's saying he didn't do it and explain things to the wife, they eventually cut off communication for the whole trial situation. I don't know at what point that happens, but Howard couldn't communicate with Nathaniel, so he just trusted whatever Nathaniel's mom is claiming that he said.
Right.
And his dad also says that if his son did it, then he deserves to be locked up and throw away the key. However, he believes that his son is innocent. And all Loretta says is that she knows her son didn't do it because she didn't raise him that way, and he's never been in trouble before. On July 27th, 2021, after just 1 hour of deliberation, a jury found Nathaniel guilty of kidnapping and murdering Samantha Josephson. And they also found him guilty of possessing a weapon during a violent crime. Now, when they go back for the sentencing trial, Judge Clifton Newman interrupts Nathaniel's mother, Loretta, who finally gets her chance to talk since his defense didn't call any witnesses. She gets up there and she's talking about, she's real sorry for what happened to Samantha, but her son didn't do it. He's innocent. The evidence they found on him and in his car and at his girlfriend's house and all that she heard during the trial, she still tried telling the judge Nathaniel was innocent. He was a kind-hearted, loving young man. And the judge was just like, yeah. So he was convicted. If you had anything to say, it was during the trial, not right now. And then the judge went ahead and sentenced Nathaniel to life in prison without the possibility of parole. And after the judge sentenced Nathaniel to life in prison without the possibility of parole, he said Nathaniel was heartless and that the attack on Samantha was one of the most severe murders he's ever seen. And on a separate-ish note, his mom saying that he was never in trouble. Nathaniel was also charged after all this with obtaining stolen goods under false pretenses. That charge was a result of Nathaniel showing up at a pawn shop in 2018 after a woman reportedly was kidnapped by two men. They physically assaulted the victim and then forced her to drive to an ATM where they robbed her of her money. And then she was forced to drive them to her home where they robbed her of items, including a PlayStation 4 that he was caught trying to take to the pawn shop to sell. And also, he tried to use Samantha's ATM card. He just failed to do so. So I think that weapon that he originally had, I don't think he intended to kill Samantha. I think he was intending to rob her like he did with this woman, but things just went haywire.
Maybe she kicked him in his junk and then he went stabby.
Maybe.
Or he got mad because she was kicking the windows and freaking out.
Maybe. But that's my case on Nathaniel Rowland. But on a horrifying but fairly predictable side note, according to Uber's own 2019 to 2020 U.S. safety report, 3,824 sexual assaults across 5 categories were reported on the company's app. And all they said was, these are just predator drivers. I was like,
Yeah, you didn't need to say that for me to figure out that. But I know you don't like when I ask these questions, but since they're all over the place, that's, you said 3,000?
just in that year, yeah.
Out of how many?
It was almost 4,000. Haha, I have that. So data from Uber's safety reports in 2020 and its previous report in 2018 showed that there were a total of 9,805 reports of sexual assaults from its rides in the 3-year span of 2017 to 2020. And Uber makes roughly 23 million rides per day on average.
Oh, well, shoot. Then that's a drop in a bucket.
Unless you're one of those 9,805 people that are sexually assaulted. And as of 2024...
You said 23 million a day.
Uh-huh.
That's 8 some odd billion.
It's 7.64 billion trips a year.
Yeah, but your odds are almost 1 in a million.
As of 2024, there's 5.4 million drivers working with Uber. And out of that number, 1.5 million drivers are working in the United States. In May 2019, Sammy's Law was introduced by Representative Christopher Smith of New Jersey. And the reason I pointed out that she was born in New Jersey was that seemed like some weird information that somebody in New Jersey issued a bill or a law.
Yeah, because it didn't even happen in New Jersey.
But because she was a native of New Jersey, her parents live in New Jersey. The Representative Christopher Smith of New Jersey.
I still think it's weird because it didn't happen in New Jersey.
Anyway, the bill was signed into law on January 5th, 2023. And Sammy's Law is now a piece of federal legislation in the United States. The bill requires rideshare company drivers to display lighted signs and scannable QR codes as a safety regulation in light of the issues tied to the rideshare service. The bill would also criminalize misrepresentation of being a driver of a rideshare service nationwide. So Sammy's Law is now a thing. But I just thought it was crazy.
It is, but then you don't like when I take into account the statistics.
I know, it's not a lot. Blah, blah, blah.
No, well, your odds, it's not like 1 in 3, but I feel like anybody in any occupation, there are the bad seeds or bad apples or whatever who are going to look for people they can victimize. So just putting it out there that not all your rideshare people are rapists and robbers.
Well, that's also if you want to get technical, because I'm getting sick and tired of you, lady, knocking down my cases by saying that these statistics are not really that great. If you want to go with that.
I didn't say your statistics weren't great. It's just on face value when you say there's 9,000 of them. Yeah, but again,
almost 10.
That is dependent on how big the whole pool is, or the whole pie is, of how big of this sliver are we talking. If you would have told me their first year in business, 9,000 people were raped, robbed, or murdered, and they only did 20 rides, that's a humongous piece of the pie.
Those numbers are impossible.
Well, that's why I was saying that would be startling information.
Yeah, they would need trainloads of people that get raped all the same day in order to make those numbers work, lady. But no.
But that, that's basic math.
No. So if you want to go with your basic math here and apply it to you knocking down my statistics here of, okay,
It wasn't
no,
knocking
yes,
anything
you are. When
down.
you say it's just a drop in the bucket, it's not a big deal. Take all murders, for example. These husbands that kill their wives, or the wives that kill their husbands. If you want to go off of that, how many wives kill their husbands? So you keep doing this with my shaken baby case, and now here with this Uber one, you're like, that's not that much. Okay, well, the random feller that goes and kills somebody on the street, how often does that happen? How often is it a random feller versus somebody that you know? How often does a wife kill a husband? They're all statistics. And if you include all the people of the world getting murdered, sure, depending on how you want to dwindle your numbers down, I'm sure you could pick this.
Exactly.
You could pick anything apart. Stop picking my cases apart, lady.
I'm just simply saying statistics are subject to how you interpret that information. And I'm just saying, as a whole pie, that's a lot smaller than I would have thought. And in the entire world of the ride sharers, that's it. Like,
your next case, I apply the same logic.
well, I'm just saying,
No.
like, if
No.
that percentage, what's the percentage of?
It doesn't
like,
matter.
It's got to be such an insignificant percentage that it's like, okay, my odds aren't that bad. I mean, I've also got to go on my luck of the draw, so I feel like it's just something to be aware of. However, I feel like my odds are neck and neck with winning the lottery. I'd rather do that, but
I feel like everybody would rather do that.
Just here's a thought. Don't get into a feller's vehicle ever, rideshare or not, if he's wearing a ski mask.
He wasn't wearing a ski mask. He was wearing a do-rag.
I didn't say he was. I'm just trying to give good life advice.
I feel like we were raised with good life advice that they're trying to backcheck on, because I was told you don't get in the car with a stranger, and now they're like, get in the car with a stranger if he's got a special light.
Just scan his QR code first. I'm sorry, can I see your QR code? And then I get clubbed in the back of the head.
Well, and not to mention, and I don't have this number, so fuck you in advance if you connect these dots, where they were talking about the number of drivers for Uber that did assault people. Those were actual Uber drivers. Nathaniel wasn't an Uber driver. He just pretended. So I don't know how many assaults happened where people pretended to be the Uber drivers.
So this isn't going to come into Uber necessarily, but it's kind of related. So you know how like there's the Uber Eats, there's DoorDash, there's all those things where they're offering a service, but just about anybody can partake in that because they're almost operating their own business underneath that other company by providing that delivery service. Well, I was annoyed one day because I DoorDashed some coffee and somebody else brought it, like it was supposed to be, I think the lady's supposed to be Tiffany. Well, it was clearly a feller that brought it to me, and I'd ordered coffee for everybody, but he like left it on the counter and at work and then skedaddled on out of there. And when I went over there, it's because he spilt it. He literally left empty fucking cups.
Oh.
Because they had lids. And I was pissed because it's just like, okay, one, who the fuck was that? He was using somebody else's DoorDash thing. And not only that, it's just like, but I would think that if you can do that, I know you're not supposed to, or I would imagine you're not supposed to, then any Uber, somebody can be like, hey, can I use your Uber QR code to make some extra money? Because maybe they do have a criminal history and wouldn't necessarily be able to get their own. But I was disturbed by how do you quality control that if you've got people who are like, yeah, I'll sign you up.
Did you report it?
I sure fucking did. Good. They gave me a credit, but I wasn't ordering another coffee because I didn't want to. I mean, maybe nowadays it could have been Tiffany. Or I don't know. Didn't look like what I would have assumed a Tiffany would look like. It just pissed me off because I get accidents happen. He could put it on the floorboard and spilt it, but there was a level of deceit with that one. And I personally, not to get on a side tangent, but I don't like any of this shit where you got to tip people before you have any service. What is that?
Yeah.
It's like tip for the service you want. Fucking wish I could withdraw that.
Yeah.
We forgot to do that's the end of the case. Let us go on for our 5-minute tangent.
I said that's the case for Nathaniel. But I don't know.
Okay.
I know you like to, so where you and I differ is you like
to get squirrely at a big number.
No, shut up and stop interrupting me for a second. So with my Shaken Baby case and this Uber case, because collectively they fall into a specific category of murder or assault, you like to take those percentages. And where I look at it separately of, I just think it's crazy that there is enough that there has become a statistic or a number. And while I realize,
Andrea, that's stupid. 1 is a statistic.
okay, but the fact that it has become such a thing that there is a safety report every year because that happens frequently enough that it is a problem. I don't think it lessens it. Just like I think that the feller that goes door to door trying to find which door's
You know what?
unlocked to go in and stab and murder the family
I figured
inside.
it out.
What?
I figured it out.
I'd like to point out that you interrupted me again, but anyway, go ahead.
That's because you don't come up for air and you're on a tangent and you just circle back around a couple times.
Because you never let me finish a thought.
You finished this thought. It's literally what you said before. Rewind it and listen to it again, and you'll probably repeat it again after you hear yourself say it a second time.
Because you interrupted the entire time I was trying to say my thought. Anyway, go.
Because, anyways, oh, I figured it out is what I was going to say. That the reason it's more startling for you is you're less jaded. You find one too many of the baby murderers, rapists, or murderers, and I'm just like, oh, there's more of them. That's not as many as I thought it'd be. I was thinking, like, you got like a 50-50 shot that you're going to be murdered today. And those statistics are not there. So it's comforting for my brain hole to know that I've got a 1 in a million chance, if I do a ride share, that I might be raped and murdered. That's seems like pretty good odds. Because when I drive to work, I feel like my odds are way greater that these wackos that don't know how to drive and are unlicensed are going to run me off the road. Or if I factor in how many people are driving while under the influence of something, that's going to go the way my ticket's punched, is all. So I feel like 1 in a million got pretty good odds there that I will not be raped or murdered. Partially because I don't use rideshare, so those odds go even more unlikely.
So you ain't coming up to visit no mores?
I'm not doing the ride sharing because that was a little bit panicky to wake up in a desolate road and then be like, and not gonna lie, I did a one eye thing. Like, I'm gonna pretend I'm still asleep. And then I was like, oh, and then I started to see where the hotel was, and I was like, oh, phew. Because I would have done some kung fu. Not that I know any kung fu, but I wouldn't have been the one taken by surprise, is all.
Poor Dave. She left you high and dry, buddy.
You did not.
Did you wake him up?
Can't remember.
That means you did not. I've watched enough of them interrogations to know that when the criminal is asked, did you do this? And they're like, I do not recall. And they did it. They're guilty. Guilty.
Which, since I didn't remember, that means I could have woke him up.
No.
You just said if they can't remember, then they did it.
Dave, yeah, you did what I said, which has left him asleep. You only worried about yourself.
You'd have to ask him his memory of it, because I feel like there's a possibility, because I want to say when we've discussed this before, he's recalled doing the whole, like when we drove out to your house, it wasn't just weirdly windy, woody roads, and it was like, I remember a lot more traffic lights is all.
Yeah, you guys took the long way to get here is all. Turns out the people in these here parts know the way to get home. Or maybe they just enjoyed the lull of you guys snoring. I don't know.
Thank you for listening to Homicide Hobbies. I'm Claire.
I'm Andy.
Follow us each week to get your fix of the atrocities that occur in true crime. And don't forget to tell people about us and rate us if you like us. But don't rate us if you didn't. Just change the channel.